Today's society is so interweaved with digital spaces and objects. A large amount of once physical social interaction now takes place online, especially after the recent migration into the virtual due to the pandemic. So what then happens to fashion, the materialization of identity, style and personality? Will unknown forms of fashion transcend to these virtual means? Over the past year, I've undergone an investigation into the future of digital fashion. I've created my own future, answered my own questions. An example of a world where digital fashion is adopted by the public, how this affects society and raises questions about what it means to wear clothes. My world may be a speculation, but the objects and programs created are all real experiments I've made using new technologies, demonstrating how close this reality really is. I do believe this is an inevitable transition at some point in the future. Therefore, a lot of my project is investigating the requirements of this and the effects these objects can have. To portray this future, I have produced 4 fashion magazines that ascend from now to 2024. Throughout the past year, I have produced multiple digital fashion outcomes with various intentions that explore different speculations, all in hopes to investigate this industry through making and interacting. This speculation is then presented through the lens of a fashion magazine, as seen. The first 2 include more source data, articles and images, whereas the last are filled with more of my own work as this narrative forms. The magazines age from today because I wanted to contextualise the existing digital fashion industry, as my work is an adaptation of such, illustrating how we journeyed into this reality and how it may progress. In the first, I explore early examples of digital fashion and appearances accepted by society as normal. This then sets the tone for the further 3, in which I'm speculating the social adoption of this reality. This includes looking at how filters have changed how a generation expresses themselves. There are articles on Instagram filters and digital makeup artists in the field. And there's fashion designers creating digital products for games and online platforms. Their skills have naturally shifted to alternative forms online. The second publication becomes more focused on digital fashion through 3D rendered textiles, to illustrate the current market and how digital fashion is sold as a picture in 2D, giving ownership to the buyer. How there may be an emotional/personal disconnect from digital fashion when owning a form you can't interact with. Another theme throughout this scene shows how society and the virtual have already merged, and the real doesn't mean as much today. Miquela is a great example of this theory. Being a virtual influencer on Instagram, she has very real stances on politics, fashion and society, despite her lack of realness. The third and fourth scenes are filled with more of my own work, and to truly commit to this world-building experience, as society and fashion become more virtual, so do the magazines. The third presents the concepts of digital fashion for the environment. Some of my outcomes include a narrated environmental movement that uses digital fashion as activism and provides a no-waste solution. I also explore the use of augmented reality, becoming an alternative for fast fashion. And finally, adopted the design of a traditional loom to produce energy instead of fabric. This magazine is the furthest projected narrative. It explores the full social entanglement of digital fashion and the user, focusing on some key elements that I realised are essential for the future and adoption of this industry. These are that garments must encourage self-expression and an emotional connection with its user. Also that they must have the ability to be wearable and movable to lessen this disconnect created with difference in form. And so the cover garment is being worn live and responding to the user's movements. Underneath, they are accessorized with rendering tools such as a Chromeball for HDR light recording. Additionally, for self-expression, I have paired digital garments with an AI that can read facial expressions, whilst also narrating the use of an AI image simulator with garment designs to make appearances more personal. These magazines have become a device to contextualise digital fashion in use and allow me to speculate a possible future. Fashion is the projection of self or group or society. It is personality in objects and socialising through appearances. This has driven the objects I have produced to overcome the lack of connection with something you cannot touch, and possibly design digital garments with more expressive opportunity than was ever possible with material threads and fabrics. This is the future I envision.